how do you learn the art of living in three worlds at the same time? What you need to retain from the past. Then you have to live in the present. Then you also have to live in the future. But I think there are 2-3 things that's leaped out at me about Ratan Tata. And the first thing is that he never thought he's running the 100-meter race himself. From Vedantic principles, if you can derive these 4 lessons: self-awareness, protect your resources, serve others before serving yourself, do business with compassion. What a wonderful world it would be.
Hi everyone, I'm Nidhi Jain. I'm on a mission to inspire and empower professionals through bringing in wisdoms of industry leaders via our YouTube channel and a podcast. The name of the channel is Pursuit of Finance and Leadership, and here we are on a mission to help you. Today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan. He is a renowned industry leader. He is an author. He is a thinker. He is very humble person. He also helps all the professionals as and when required through a mentorship program, and he has written many best-selling books. I'm very, very humble, and thank you so much, sir, for being there on my show, giving me time to be there with you. Thank you so much, Gopal, sir.
Thank you, and I hope if it can be of help to young people, I would be the most delighted.
Yes, thank you, sir. And Gopal, sir, has spent time in 2 major organizations, Hindustan Unilever as well as Tata Sons, and he's also served on board of Castrol India and Press Trust of India. And today we are really looking, sir, from you discussing on 3 topics. One is going through your journey, your experiences. Second would be we would want to cover in your experiences with Ratan Tata and your advice to upcoming leaders. So we'll cover our discussion in 3 parts.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I want to first share with you something. When I started working, my first management book, the first book I read was the book which is Bonsai Manager. That affected really me positively on how do I think in terms of leading our teams. How do I really, work towards learning. And that's shaped me who am I. This book I read somewhere in I think 2009 or 10. That was the first book.
Yes, 2007 the book was released.
Yes, so 2009 was the first time I got to know about that book, and it was a very book which was very close to my heart, and that actually also developed my interest in reading management books, and that's how I started reading it. And to meet you in person is really a great fortune for me. My first question to you, sir, would be, I'm very curious to know your early part of the years. Sir, आप कैसे, how did you grow up? Where did you, how was your childhood like? Something about your professional and personal life, if you can share.
Well, I don't know how interesting it is to your audience, but I come from a very middle class family from deep south in Tanjore. And my grandfather was a priest in the temple. My father was the first one who left the village with basically a school education as available in the 20s in the village, and he came to Calcutta in 1931 to make a career in the big world. And 1931, you must remember, was British colonial Raj. Calcutta and Bombay and Madras were the big cities where you could get a job. And he started his life as a typist, a stenographer. Back in 1931. But he was a wonderful father, had a deep influence on me, and he was determined to do something with his life. Having started his life at 40 rupees a month, which nobody can believe that he could live a life on 40 rupees a month. He self-educated himself. He spoke only Tamil, No Hindi, no Bengali, no English.
But how did you manage in Calcutta?
So
It must be difficult.
It is unbelievable to imagine what determination can get you in life. Since we are talking to many young people, the importance of determination, at least to me, comes through from my father. Without knowing any of these languages, he came to Calcutta. Then he learnt a bit. And his Hindi was always a bit dodgy. मेरी हिंदी उनके हिंदी से काफ़ी अच्छा है, naturally. But it was very dodgy. It was very mixed up थोड़ा हिंदी, थोड़ा तमिल, थोड़ा English, सब mix up, थोड़ा Bengali. But he managed to communicate, and he was a pushing guy. And he went on to study accountancy,
Okay.
and he got admitted as a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in 1947 when India became independent.
Wow. So he must be like one of the earliest chartered
One of the
accountants.
earliest chartered accountants. He actually, it was called a GDA, Government Diploma in Accountancy.
Okay.
So वहाँ जिनको GDA लिया हुआ था उन सबको ACA बना दिया. So he could write ACA after his name,
Wow.
which was a matter of naturally great pride for him, because he couldn't write a BCom or an MCom or anything like that, you know. And he worked his way up. I won't go into the whole story. So I was born and raised in Calcutta. Many people think I am a Bengali masquerading as a Tamil, and the Tamils think I am a Bengali masquerading as a Tamil, and the Bengalis think I am a Tamil masquerading as a Bengali, because আমার বাংলাটা খুব ভালো, আমি বাংলা বলতে পারি, আমার জন্ম কলকাতায় হয়েছিল, और मेरी स्कूल में फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज हिंदी थी, सो मुझे सब भाषा लर्न करना पड़ा. एंड माई हिंदी टीचर वॉज वेरी डिस्पेयरिंग कि तुम ज़िंदगी में कैसे आगे बढ़ोगे, तुम्हें हिंदी आते ही नहीं है. बट कुछ रट्टा मार के मैंने पास कर लिया सब कुछ. So I can speak a bit in Hindi, a bit in Bengali, a bit in English. Of course, I can speak in Tamil. And I studied all my life in Calcutta till the age of 21.
And you have like your specialization in engineering, right? You're
That's
engineer?
correct. I studied physics in St. Xavier's, and that got me very interested in the science of optics and electronics. तो मैं IIT खड़गपुर में गया, एंड वहाँ पे मैंने इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स इंजीनियरिंग, उन दिनों में सब लोग मैकेनिकल सिविल वगैरह पढ़ते थे. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स इंजीनियरिंग की कोई वैसे चर्चा भी नहीं थी, लोगों को समझ भी नहीं आता था कि इसमें क्या पढ़ें. थोड़ा बहुत रेडियो चलाना आता होगा एट बेस्ट. बट आई स्टडीड कंप्यूटर साइंस, एंड आई हैड नो जॉब. देयर वाज नो कैंपस रिक्रूटमेंट. बट इन 1967 I saw an ad in the newspaper from Hindustan Lever saying they would like to recruit management trainees in electronic data processing.
Okay.
तो मैंने कहा कि कोई नौकरी तो देने वाला नहीं है, ये कंपनी कुछ ठीक लगता है. And I got an appointment letter at the salary of 650 rupees, which was of course much more than my father ever started with.
Yeah.
But 650 looks so small now.
But that point of time, 1967, 600 was a big value, isn't it?
I think it was a small value, but
Okay.
my son, of course, starts life in much better, and so he
Yeah.
thinks, how could you manage on 650? Anyhow, I joined Hindustan Lever, and the first thing Hindustan Lever taught me, which again I would like to tell your young people, that we come out of chartered accountancy, IIM, engineering, कि हमने खूब पढ़ लिया है, एंड कुछ अच्छे मार्क्स मिले हैं तो हम सोचते हैं कि हम उसमें उस्ताद हो गए. एक्चुअली वो ABCD सीखना जैसा इक्विवेलेंट है, यू नो, जस्ट बेसिक परिचय. हिंदुस्तान लीवर ने कहा कि आप किस चीज़ को कंप्यूटराइज करोगे, तुम जाके ट्रेनिंग ले लो. एंड दे सेंट मी एज अ सेल्समैन ऑफ डालडा एंड सनलाइट सोप टू नासिक.
Yes.
You must be knowing this.
I can relate to it because as a management trainee, as like a finance management trainee, doing a sales, so I did my sales in north part of the country. But I can relate to कि how what's the experience we get there. सब कुछ पता लग जाता है. Middle start from zero.
Ground
that
floor, from
ground
the
floor.
below the ground floor, basement से शुरू होता है.
Absolutely.
लेकिन उसमें अनुभव मेरा बहुत अच्छा हुआ कि कुछ 21 साल की उम्र में हिंदुस्तान लीवर में होने से 650 रुपये. यू थिंक यू अराइव्ड, यू नो, यू आर अ बिग गाय, बट जरा many stories and lessons. You also been in Hindustan Lever, so you recognize them.
Yes.
And you have your own stories.
I joined also at 21, like you yourself, but I can relate to that. उस time में it's just makes us to become so humble.
Yeah.
I think that's the point which
And you realize कि business में जो एक्चुअल ट्रांजैक्शन होता है वो कहाँ पे होता है. ऑफिस में बैठ के कंप्यूटर पे नहीं होता है, खाते में नहीं होता है, सेल्स में होता है, प्रोडक्शन में होता है, और प्रोक्योरमेंट में होता है.
Absolutely.
And I learnt a very strong lesson that if you are not in sales, purchasing or manufacturing, then you're a staff job. जो भी accountancy, computers, IT, strategy, all these roles are staff jobs. They are not the real jobs in the company. The real jobs, the hakikat happens in sales, production and purchasing.
Absolutely, and I can actually, with my experience also, I have done like couple of years procurement. That brings us so much closer on the one end of the supply chain, which is with our vendors or partners. Same way, sales, as you said, will bring us close to customers, and real operations happens there.
And that's the most important thing to understand, because उसमें नम्रता भी आती है कि भाई ऐसे होते हैं लोग सारी ज़िंदगी यही करते हैं, एक दुकान से दूसरे दुकान पे जाके लाला जी से बात करके डालडा सनलाइट बेचने का, और उनकी मेहनत से कंपनी चलती है। हम लोग टाई पहन के ऑफिस में बैठ के कुछ करते हैं, उसमें नहीं है। So it brings humility, and I would recommend certainly for your audience who are all young people कि in the first 10 years of your career कोशिश करो कि आप operations में चले जाओ. It may be for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. I'm not saying nobody should join accounts department. In fact, if you join the accounts department, actually do sit and do trial balance, closing of accounts quarterly, not high finance, buying and lending and getting a spread of 10 basis points. That is not the way to start your career. वो बाद में आएगा वो सब. So Hindustan Lever is a wonderful place because they never let you settle down in one place. 2, 3, 4 साल में दोबारा कहीं और ट्रांसफ़र, या तो जियोग्राफिकल लोकेशन बदल देते थे, या फंक्शन बदल देते थे, या किसके साथ काम कर रहे हो, योर रिलेशनशिप्स बदल देते थे, या ज्योग्राफी बदल देते थे, दिल्ली से बॉम्बे, बॉम्बे से कलकत्ता. एंड द एडवांटेज ऑफ दैट इज़, जैसे कि हम चावल उगाते हैं ना, एक जगह प्लांट करते हैं, फिर उसको ट्रांसप्लांट करते हैं, तब उसकी विगर बढ़ जाती है. एंड हिंदुस्तान लीवर मैनेजर्स आर वेरी विगरस बिकॉज उनकी they transplanted all the time.
Absolutely. I think the point which you mentioned, being resilient, I think the alternate word probably would be
you
being
become resilient, you become curious, and you know that there is never the end to learning.
Yeah.
Some people join a company and then they do that for the next 20 years and they say मेरे 20 साल की तजुर्बा है. But my view, मेरा experience जो है कि different types of work if you do, you get resilient. And that I was lucky. I did it in Hindustan Lever.
For 30 years.
For
31.
31 years. I did various jobs. I won't go into all the detail of it because that may not be very interesting to anybody else. But it involved living in Bombay, Delhi, Chennai. Then I went away to Saudi Arabia, UK. I came back. I was the vice chairman of the company when I moved on. I met Ratan Tata and I was very attracted to what he wanted to do in Tata's. And I was already 51, 52. Not the age when you normally switch a job. Certainly not at vice chairman, director level. Yeah. But I liked what I heard from Ratan Tata. So I made the change. And I have not regretted it. I have had a career of 49 years, 31 there, 18 in Tata. And I'm very happy.
Yeah, 2 great organizations.
2 wonderful organizations.
2 wonderful organizations, I must say. I mean, India mein Tata's and in FMCG, of course, Hindustan Lever. Both of these are in great organizations. And it is amazing that you had an experience there. If it's okay with you, sir, if you can share something about your personal life as well, like what's your interest, etc.
I'm a boring fellow. I have only one wife, which I'm happy with. I've done only 2 jobs in my career. I'm happy with that. Most people like to think, how many jobs can I change? How fast can I become vice president? नहीं, मेरे में वो ख्वाहिश न थी, न मैंने किया. Likewise, I'm very happy with the wife I've had for 54 years. So, and we have 3 children, and they have their children.
Yeah.
So I'm happy in that sense with. And my focus has always been, even when I was younger, compared to other people of my age, to lead a rather disciplined life.
Okay.
Even if I go for a party, within 2 days I will sort of restore my balance. And my definition of balance is sleep well every night.
Okay.
And if you miss it for some reason, which can happen due to travel or you went for a party when you're young, then make up quickly. Don't wait for. And the impact of this was sharp in my mind, because when I was 9 years old in Calcutta, my father got me admitted into the Bengal Lawn Tennis Association to learn tennis.
Okay.
Which was at that time being run by a former Davis Cup player called Dilip Bose. A very good player in his day, in the 40s. And he used to make us run around before we could pick up the racket and hit the ball. And we were young, we wanted to hit the ball. And one day I said, "Sir, can't we start playing immediately?" He said, "If you had only one car for your whole life, how would you look after it?" I said, "साहब एक ही गाड़ी मिला तो
ध्यान तो रखेंगे.
ध्यान बहुत रखेंगे." He said, "ये बदन जो है आपका एक ही कार है."
Warm up before you start.
So दूसरी गाड़ी तो मिलनी नहीं है. जिंदगी भर ये इसी गाड़ी से गाड़ी चला रहा है. So you better look after your body. That was his.
That's actually a very nice way to say. I mean, and this is great. I mean, you are so fit. I think it is because of the discipline you have followed about your health regime.
So I've always played various games, badminton, tennis, वगैरह वगैरह, and I still continue to try to be fit. I've tried not to eat too much because God has made this world that those who need the food don't get it, and those who don't need the food get it.
Get it in abundance. Yeah.
So कुछ लोग मोटे हो जाते हैं खा के, और जिनको जो दुबले रह जाते हैं without food. So we can contribute. So I'm not a greatly social guy. I don't go out all the time. But मुझे passion, अगर आप पूछो तो writing और reading की है.
Yes.
Apart from family and children and so on.
That I can understand, because you've written almost 16 books or
20.
Like 20. Wow, I didn't know that. That's a fact for me. 20 books writing. Only if you're passionate you can write it. So this is something I can imagine that. So if you look back to your 50 years, अपने 50 years अपने working career में, is there any one or two incidents which really changed the way in which आप you think about it, आप कैसे सोचते हैं, आप कैसे करते हैं, ऐसा कोई life changing situation if you want to share with us?
There probably are many, but in the interest of brevity, I should choose one or two. Otherwise,
yes,
किस्सा लंबा हो जाएगा. But the first lesson I would recall is my interview in Hindustan Lever in 1966 or 67. We had a marketing director called Scott Burney in those days, and I was a geek, real geek.
Computers में घुसने वाला geek.
And when I went for the final interview, somehow I got through all the stages, which I think you're familiar with. And he said, "Would you like to be a marketing trainee?"
Okay.
And I said, "No, sir, I've applied to be a computer trainee." But he said, "Do you think you're a good salesman?" I said, "I've never thought about being a salesman. I don't think of that as very good work." He said, "Doesn't matter. I'm not going to offer you a job in marketing. But here's a pencil. Can you sell me this pencil?"
Actually, back then, this is now such a famous interview question. Can you sell me a pen? Back then also, he asked you that, "Yeah, sell me a pencil." And
he was chewing his pencil, and it was all eaten up one side. And he gave me his pencil and said, "Sell me this pencil." I told him something or the other. At the end of which, he said, "You know something? I think you'll make a good sales manager, good marketing manager. But you have come here to be a computer engineer. That's the job you will get. But if you change your mind, come and knock on my door."
Oh, that's how you changed, because that's something I wanted to ask you.
After 4.5 years,
when
I felt these computers are going to take a lot of time, I changed. And it taught me one thing, because you said did something that really influenced you. I realized that everybody in life is a salesman.
Yes, we are.
It doesn't matter whether you're in finance, it doesn't matter whether you're in purchasing, whether you're in HR, because you don't get to earn a living if you can't sell something to somebody.
Yeah.
Sales, जिसको मैं बहुत नीच काम सोचता था, suddenly changed in my mind कि हम सब salesmen हैं. और आप देखिएगा जो intellectually brilliant है लेकिन he can't carry himself and sell his ideas, वो वहीं रह जाता है.
Absolutely, I completely relate to it. I mean, now, say for example, you have written so many books. Unless we are promoting our own books,
Exactly.
and people know about it, कि yes, these are the great books available, then the purpose will not be met. So even it is about profit, not profit, it's about selling skills helps us to reach to more and more people.
So if you are offering lighting services or photography services, you have to sell the idea. Otherwise, you'll be sitting at home waiting for people to
And
come
what
to
would
you.
be, sir, one more instance if you want to share with us?
The second one is about taking risk. You know, as I grew older, and I'll just mention two, so I've told the first one. We all tend to become a bit conservative. We become babus in a large organization and so on and so forth. And our image, mental image, based on media and what we read and see on TV and all that, of a risk taker is a guy who's bindas, who does big deals, takes financial risks and so on. That's one form of risk taking. But the form of risk taking that mature people have, it's not that they don't take risks, it's that they don't give the impression that they're risk taking, but actually they're taking big, bold risks. And that came to me when I met Ratan Tata.
Yeah.
Because he's a very quiet, understated person. He doesn't speak much. And if you met him casually, you would say, "Arey yaar, itna bada chalata hai, ye to itna quiet hai." You know, he is not a bold
Exactly,
person.
especially even on medias, etc.
Yeah.
We have seen a very shy personality of Ratan Tata, sir.
But what is a bold person? A bold person, in my definition, is not a guy who's bet the farm. That's a rash person. A bold person is one who's taken a well thought out bet. He wants to win the bet, but if he loses, he won't be ruined.
Yeah.
So what Yudhishthira did when he bet his wife was not an act of boldness, it was an act of stupidity.
That was a complete act of stupidity.
Isn't
I
it?
think he was an ego. I think it was about getting an ego, or that was the problem.
That kind of boldness is not the kind of boldness enterprise requires, or anything in life, frankly. There's a chance that you may lose, so you bet your house, you bet your kingdom. But I think when he crossed that line, when he bet his wife, and that's not the kind of bet that risk takers take. Rash people take that.
Yeah.
Risk takers will say that if it goes wrong, I can still survive. I may be ruined. Say if I have 100 rupees in my pocket, if I bet 50 rupees and 50 rupees is gone, that's quite a lot of money.
Absolutely.
But I will not starve day after tomorrow, or I won't make my family starve.
Yeah, it's like, I think the point which you are sharing, sir, is about taking a calculated risk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the world of enterprise today in India, many people think bold people are ones with flashy eyes. You know, they are made in the Amjad Khan type of...
Like a hero.
Like a hero. That's all right for the movies, but that's not the way life works.
Yeah. So
And Ratan Tata taught me great lessons in that. And I learned this over a period of time because he took many bets. Like for example, even in Hindustan Lever, they would very rarely recruit senior people from outside.
absolutely. I think you are one of the senior most who was recruited in Tatas, right, from outside?
Yes, and I'm not the only one. There was Ravikant who came, there was Prasad Menon who came, there was Kishore Chaukar who came. Many of us came from, at the age of 50, 52, 53, you know, between 45 and 55, including Balaji, who joined Tata Motors at a late age. Now, there's a risk to Tatas in taking such people.
Especially on the culture side.
Principally on the culture side.
Yes.
Principally on
Because
the culture.
work, though, obviously you have done it, that's why you are in that company. But what about the culture? Yeah.
And that's only one example. There are many other examples one can take. But Ratan Tata was a great demonstrator, without his intending to do so, of taking a calculated risk.
Yeah, actually, even I was, when I was following the story of Indica, so that was also one brave risk, isn't it? Committing something for launching. So great. So that's the risk taking you learned from him. So if you reflect upon your career, you have been super successful. आपके लिए 3 important skills कौन सी रही होंगी? You mentioned earlier about discipline life, then you mentioned about risk taking. If you have to say like couple of more skills कि ये चीज़ से मुझे success मिली है.
Since our audience are young people.
Yes.
And now I am at an age when I can look back.
Exactly, because you can connect the dots looking backward, isn't it?
It's a skill to which I had never applied my mind before. But I would mention it because I want young people to
Absolutely.
apply
We want to
their
learn
mind
from
it
your
today.
story, sir.
That how do you learn the art of living in 3 worlds at the same time?
Okay, and what do you mean by that?
The first world is what you need to retain from the past.
Okay.
Everything that happened in the past, in your family, it's your father, grandfather, in a company, it is what your predecessors did, is not to be junked. Everything is not to be emulated either. So you have to take out some juice from the past.
Yeah, preserve that
culture.
Thing.
And that's what is called culture or niyat,
Yes.
to use a Hindi word. Then you have to live in the present. आज का काम नहीं होगा तो आज की रोटी नहीं मिलेगी. So you have to battle all the ghosts and obstacles. तो आज की जो दंगल है उसमें लगना चाहिए. वो Rafael Nadal, who was a famous tennis player, you must have heard his name. He said that for me, conquering the ghosts in my own mind is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that is true.
Because all of us have ghosts in our mind.
Even we are the one who sometimes stop ourselves. Like I was very shy मैंने कभी कैमरा, in fact मैं तो कभी social media पे नहीं थी till 3 months back, and it's about my inner ghost was telling me you cannot be on social media, but the moment you cross that ghost, then it is like it's normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to live in the present, overcoming your own ghosts, and you have to live in the present thinking that this is the most important thing for today. Like Rafael Nadal says, when I'm playing a particular point, I don't think about the match, I don't think about my career, I don't think about my family. I'm thinking this is a life and death point.
This is the present moment.
This is the present moment.
And then?
What in our yoga they call mindfulness.
Yes.
Dhyan. Then you also have to live in the future. उसमें तो अनसर्टेनिटी है. किसको मालूम है फ्यूचर में क्या होने वाला है 5 साल में, 10 साल में. So to have your feet in the past, your belly in the present, and your head in the future.
Wow, you're such beautifully shared, living in the 3 worlds
at the same time.
At the same time.
And I meet many young people who tell me, sir, you don't know how difficult a day is. By the time I get up in the morning, हम ट्रेन पकड़ के जाते हैं कहीं, रात में आते आते मुझे कल का तो सोचना ही चांस नहीं मिलता है. I don't read.
Yeah.
I said, that's up to you. But I can tell you one thing. आजकल कितने साधन हैं, ऑडियो बुक्स हैं,
Exactly, you can do
पॉडकास्ट हैं, आपके मोबाइल फ़ोन पे मिलता है. तो हमारे ज़माने में किताब खरीदना था, उसको हाथ में लेके घूमो. आजकल किंडल मिल जाता है. साधन बहुत हैं, आपकी जो मोटिवेशन है वो लैकिंग है.
Absolutely. I think this is, as I'm conversing with many great leaders like yourselves, everyone has shared the importance of learning reading. I think with reading we will be able to actually get lots of ideas about this. That is excellent. Sir, what would be some other skills if you want to share? Like living in 3 worlds. I think, let me just pause here on this one itself. Living in 3 worlds is very good conceptually. How do you actually practically do?
No, you practically do. Now I may sound like a yoga teacher. I'm not trying to be a yoga teacher, but
no,
let
but
me
something
tell you
a very
my
quick practical
experience,
tips.
my
Yeah.
experience. I find that reflecting on the culture of the past and what you need to retain best happens through a little bit of swadhyaya. Think yourself.
Okay.
Meditation. Some people do meditation, some people write. You find your own way. But that ekanta, you need early in the morning, late in the night.
Okay.
You find your own way.
Like a meditation.
Like a meditation.
Peaceful.
To know why am I here? How did I get here? So I think of my father's struggles. He never thought it's a struggle, by the way. He said, yehi zindagi hai. So he led his life, but it was one hell of a struggle. I mean, he wasn't a graduate, my mother wasn't a graduate. So they were absolutely determined that all of us should become at least graduates.
Yeah.
Luckily for my brothers and sisters, we all became double graduates, not just a single graduate. And their Atma must have had some pleasure out of it. But none of us went abroad to study. Then when we raised our children, we said, yaar, kahin ho sakta hai to kahin bahar bhejenge. Luckily, some of our children, many of our children went abroad to study. This is how pragati happens.
Okay, understood. So mindfulness
So
is something that
mindfulness
can help.
is to keep in the culture. In the today, you have to play like Rafael Nadal.
Yeah.
ये जिंदगी का खेल है. I must play, and I must play in a way that in the future somebody else will be proud of what I did.
Absolutely.
So doing chori, cheating, going back, getting some political help, those are all things that come back to plague you.
Yeah.
The one thing I've learned in Hindustan Lever and Tata, and I think anybody can do this, it's not just for me, is to conduct your day, fight your battles in a way where you can sleep well at night. It's the most valuable gift God can give you, sleeping well at night.
Yes.
मैंने वो चला अकाउंटिंग में ये एंट्री गलत किया है, वो किया है, ये किया है, थोड़ा पैसा एक्स्ट्रा कमा लिया है, doesn't leave you with peace. So that's for today. Do a good and ask, like Krishna told Arjuna, he says, do your best. Don't focus on the result.
Absolutely.
Many young people don't understand, ये क्या है भगवद गीता की बात कर रहे हैं आप बूढ़े लोग.
You know, I had not read Bhagavad Gita for a long time, but this year I read that. And I realized that the wisdoms actually are timeless.
Absolutely.
Some of those wisdoms are the point which you mentioned about focus on what we are doing right now. It makes us even better rather than thinking about its implication or results. So
you
an
take a
amazing
mother as a
wisdom.
good example.
Yeah.
When she is changed, I mean, it's a thankless job, frankly, to raise
Absolutely.
a child. I mean, it's a tough job. If God gave a opportunity to men and women, आप लोग में से आप decide करो, either of them can produce. The men will never volunteer.
Yeah, but after becoming mother, so I'm a mother of a 7-year-old kid, but I said it is a lot of hard work, but it is at the same time, it's a lot of love
Pleasure.
and affection and pleasure.
That's the point. So you have to raise your child without looking for the result. I mean, love and affection or pride, if she becomes a chartered accountant or an MBA or whatever she becomes when she grows up, is what is your like your pension or your provident fund बाद में मिलेगा. But आज के लिए जो करना है, you have to do the best you can for that child.
Great.
And that's a good example of how to spend your.
Absolutely.
As far as embracing the future is concerned, you have to understand that you're rewarded in the present for what you did for today. But your imagination about how the future will be and how well prepared you are for that is what you'll be rewarded for tomorrow. If I started my salary on 650 rupees,
Yes.
and frankly, when I found my provident fund and LIC said I'll give you 1 lakh rupees in 2005, I thought, अरे 1 lakh रुपया मिल जाएगा,
Then you are happy.
happy man. But of course, very soon you find that that's stupid. So you have to plan that when I retire, so I'll have to earn more money, and of course you try to do your work well and get better salary, etc. And we may succeed, we may not. So using your imagination for the future, using your body sweat for the present, and using your emotions for the past. That is how you can manage all the three at the same time.
Absolutely, sir. Wonderful answer. बहुत अच्छा लगा. Sir, अगर आप अपने करियर में रिफ्लेक्ट बैक करें, आपके लिए what you consider as like such proud professional achievement, any project, any initiative, आपने तो बहुत सारे roles किए हैं, even in Unilever, and बहुत सारे projects किए होंगे टाटास में. Anything one which is retained with you कि ये तो बहुत ही awesome था.
नहीं, the अनुभव was awesome. The result, नतीजा may not have been awesome.
अनुभव बताइए. I think that is
Because
more
it is-
important.
The अनुभव is something that's personal to you.
Yes. जो आपको
The rest
करके
of the world में से इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है? One अनुभव that I felt very good about 10 years in my career, I was working with my boss who's called Bipin Shah, also director of Hindustan Lever, and we were given the task of turning around a dairy which we were running in a place called Eta
Okay.
in UP.
अच्छा.
It had made losses every year for 10 years. It had been set up in the time of Prakash Tandon, the first Indian chairman. And they were all smart people. They were dairy engineers, mechanical engineers, accountants. लेकिन so Narayan Dutt Tiwari was then the chief minister of UP, and he said to our chairman, Mr. Thomas, कि थॉमस साहब आपको ये बेचना नहीं है. देखिए हिंदुस्तान लीवर से नहीं चला तो कौन चला पाएगा. एक बार और कोशिश कीजिए, हमारे तरफ से कोई आपको मदद चाहिए तो आप बताएं. So a number of things were done. But what Bipin Shah told me was very important. He said, you know, you can save a factory. Why do we want to save the factory? We want to save it because there are 400 people working in that factory. There are 4,000 milkmen who are giving milk to our factory.
It's a lot of dependency there.
4,400 people multiply by 5 or 6, 20,000 लोगों की जिंदगी बच जाएगी. That is an emotional thing.
Absolutely. I think that it's just change the perspective.
It changes your perspective. कॉस्ट कट करो, सेल्स बढ़ाओ, ये तो रोज की काम है, हम लोग करते ही रहते हैं. बट किसी और इंसान की ज़िंदगी बच जाए और हमारे मेहनत से थोड़ा उस पर असर हो जाए तो दैट्स अ वेरी लाइफ चेंजिंग एक्सपीरियंस. तो मेरे लिए वो बड़ा अच्छा अनुभव था. अब लोग कहेंगे कि डेयरी तो बचा नहीं, फाइनली बचा. We started making profits, but after 20 years, Hindustan Lever sold that factory. That's fine.
Which is okay.
Which is okay. But they sold a profitable factory.
And then it was not like वो shut का point है. It is about, ठीक है, there could be some other person who is operating that.
Is operating it better. So that's one experience which I found to be very good. The second experience, which is many years later, I was in Tata. I'll give you one from each.
Yes.
Which made me feel very good. You know, Tatas are very good at social.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I was very impressed with when I joined Tata is that they devised, in TCS of all the companies, you know, which you hardly expect TCS to do this, they had devised a sort of a matka into which you put some mud and stones, and if you put water into it, you get clean water at the end of it. Just like you pour the matka and you take it out of a tap. And when earthquake वगैरह हो जाते हैं ना कोई, तो people don't get drinking water. More people die of water poisoning than out of the earthquake itself. Earthquake में 400 मर जाएंगे, लेकिन 4,000 लोग मर जाएंगे क्योंकि पानी ठीक नहीं था. So they had made this matka, and their whole point was, if there's 100 units of bacteria, हमारे पानी जब निकलता है उसमें 15 ही बचते हैं.
Okay. ये तो हाँ, this is very unique story.
It's and it can be assembled in the village. कोई खरीदने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, कोई capital investment नहीं है, मटका है, पत्थर वत्थर, you know, there's some. So I was very excited because offering clean water to Indians is a very important. Hindustan Lever also went into it with Pureit or something, I think. So I started working with our research people. I was the vice chairman of Tata Chemicals at that time. And I said, ये nanotechnology वगैरह होते हैं, इसमें से कुछ clever idea एक मुझे क्या चाहिए, जैसे कि हम एक छोटा बल्ब अपने पॉकेट में रखे हम जाते हैं, जहीं भी सॉकेट मिल गया बल्ब लगाते हैं, बिजली आ जाता है.
Correct.
लाइट. मुझे ऐसा यंत्र बनाओ जो. So we started working on it, but then they found that they could remove, but they would still be left. From 100 it will become 15, from 15 it will become 5.
There will be some impurity.
So, and I said, hey, this is very good. 15 se. So I took Ratan Tata to have a look at it, and he said, हाँ ठीक है. He wasn't very excited.
Because 5 का 0 नहीं है इसलिए.
5 का 0 नहीं है, क्या 0.1 होना चाहिए. He said global standard क्या है. So there are available global standards. He said if you don't go to global standard, then you can't say I'm giving you pure water. I'm giving you water with 5% bugs free. That's not a proposition.
Yeah.
So we went back to work on it. And then we made a product which was not requiring any electricity, nothing. You could assemble it at home, do it yourself kit called Swachh. And even today, Hindustan Lever, Tata's is using Swachh model for drinking water in their CSR activities. And that gave me satisfaction because the question, see, life's problems are solved by the question you ask. Ratan Tata asked me the question, कि 5 भी क्यों बचते हैं. अगर आप टेक्नोलॉजिकल जायंट हो
तो आपको तो 0 point something में होना चाहिए.
So those are the two experiences since you asked I'm
Yeah,
mentioning.
actually, and both of these have much larger society impact. मतलब
Exactly.
आपने जो दोनों examples बोले, it is not about profit, it is not about sales कितना बड़ा, but I think it's about the lives आपने कितनी impact की through this, and not only at that time, but even the futures to come, right?
And you know, much as I grew older, and then you start becoming a bit philosophical. हम business क्यों करते हैं? हम career क्यों करते हैं? तो we all know the story that Swami Vivekananda went to America in 1893. That story is well known, so I don't need to repeat it. English speaking monk who electrified America.
Absolutely.
So the business people there asked him in Chicago, कि Swami ji, we are all business people. And you're talking philosophy about what is life all about, what is Antaratma and all. We don't understand. For conducting a business, can you give us any principles that come out of your Vedanta philosophy? It's a very complex question.
Yeah.
Looks very simple.
It is complex. I don't know कैसे answer दिया? You know the answer?
His answer, of course, I have summarized it in my own way.
Yeah.
I think accurately. He said, if Vedanta teaches you that you must do only 4 things if you want to run a good business. Number 1, become self-aware.
Okay.
Because आपका जो शत्रु है वो आपके अंदर है, बाहर नहीं है.
Absolutely.
Second, he said protect the resources. जो साधन है, हवा, तेल, जमीन, मिट्टी, raw materials, people, इनके साधन से, इनकी मेहनत से आपको कोई प्रोडक्ट बनाने का चांस मिलता है. इसको प्रोटेक्ट करो. ये long before ESG and sustainability.
All of these are like ESG में. Even a self-awareness point is an emotional. अभी now EI is becoming a popular buzzword, but that's like back then.
So third thing he said is, कमाओ, but serve other people before serving yourself.
Actually, there's quite a lot which Tata follows, and to a lot extent, even Hindustan Lever follows some of those principles. And that's why they are timeless. Like they've been there for long.
Exactly. And the fourth thing he said is, जो भी जिंदगी में करना है, tough decisions लेना है ले लो, लेकिन implement them with compassion.
Yes.
क्यों? Without compassion there is no business.
हाँ, business बंद ही करना पड़ सकता है, but then if you have compassion with the people, then it is okay.
I found to say this from Vedantic for a monk in 1893, and if I apply it to today's business, and you see in the big papers, share prices going up, down, somebody manipulating, somebody being charged as manipulating, all this stuff going on. I say, if from Vedantic principles, if you can derive these 4 lessons, self-awareness, protect your resources, serve others before serving yourself, do business with compassion, what a wonderful world it would be.
Absolutely. It will be a wonderful world. Companies will last forever. And
as you rightly said, I have been very lucky, because both Hindustan Lever and Tata's have, they are not perfect, but they have these elements in their business strategy.
Absolutely. And Tata's has been there more than 150 years.
Yeah.
Unilever, at least in India, is more than like now 80 plus years, 75 तो मैंने
90 तो हो गया है.
90, हाँ. Absolutely great. So moving on further now, if you have spent like 17 plus years, right, with Ratan Tata sir, and he's the person who hired you into Tata Group, and we want to also learn from your experiences with him. आपकी life में, and I know you have been sharing, and we're all sad with what happened, but it is important that we learn the lessons with this great man. So आपके कौन से memorable experiences उनके साथ थे with Ratan Tata, which you want to share with us?
Well, I don't want to go into a huge charcha and analysis of his strengths and weaknesses, because I'm not writing his confidential report.
Absolutely.
And it's of no use anyway if somebody had to write it. But I think there are 2-3 things that's leaped out at me about Ratan Tata, and I have really thought about it after his passing away, because you tend to think of somebody, you take it for granted this person is here, and then suddenly the person is not there. The first thing is that he never thought he's running the 100-meter race himself. He thought he's a marathon runner where he is running his laps. He has taken the baton from somebody before and he's going to hand over the baton to somebody after. He has to run his laps well, and the baton must be better condition when he hands it over than when he took it over. Very few CEOs think of themselves as relay race runners. Most of them think they are in 100-meter sprint. हमारे टाइम में हम इस वक्त बने, वहाँ पे हम निकले, मार्केट कैप इतना बड़ा, मार्जिन इतना बड़ा, सेल्स इतना बड़ा, कंपाउंड ग्रोथ इतना हुआ, मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन इतना बड़ा.
It's like quite a lot of short-term view.
Well, they don't think it's short term because they think, I've made the same mistake, by the way. I'm not blaming other people. I'll say, oh, when I took over this job, the sales was 100, मेरे जाते जाते 200 हो गया है.
Yeah, you think
But
that way.
आपके आने और जाने में इतना छोटा सा समय है कंपनी के इतिहास में, समाज के इतिहास में, कि क्या फर्क पड़ता है. Whereas if you go with the attitude of a relay race runner, कि मुझे ये कुंजी दिया गया, इसको लेके मुझे भागना है
और आगे वाले को पास करना है,
और उसकी वैल्यू ऐड करके इसको और थोड़ा शाइनी करके और थोड़ा रिच करके दूसरे को देना है, और फिर मैं निकल गया, इतिहास हो गया. So that is one very good thing about Ratan Tata, which I think. The second thing that I think is worth mentioning, he carried on the tradition of Jamsetji Tata and Dorabji Tata and J.R.D. Tata. See, the great thing about some of the Tata leaders is they always recognize that they can't do it by themselves. And they never, I don't know what they felt in their own mind, what ghosts they had, but I'm not a privy to that. But if they had to recruit people who are better than them, they recruited. So Jamsetji Tata said, मुझे steel के बारे में क्या मालूम है?
Hire the best men in steel.
So get the best men in steel. He said, I don't know how to run a textile mill. So he hired Barjurji Pasha. And Dorabji Tata did exactly the same thing. J.R.D. Tata brought Darbari Seth and Nani Palkhiwala and, you know.
And he started TAS, the program itself, to
TAS
groom
program.
talent. Yeah.
So, and Ratan Tata did exactly the same thing. So, while all the credit goes to the chief, which is fair enough because the blame would have gone to him also, this truth is that all of them recognize कि ये एक जन का काम नहीं है, मेरे पास अच्छे साथी होने चाहिए. साथी हो तो मतभेद तो हो ही जाएगा. That's part of life.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be married and not have a difference of opinion with your spouse. That's
It will happen.
It has to happen.
And
it's
that's
how
when the
you
love
handle
is,
that matbhed that makes the difference to the marriage. If you say my way or the highway, it goes one way.
Yeah.
If you say, "Theek hai beta, this one I'll give in and the next one you give in," then life moves on. So they were great leaders because they were the leader of leaders. This rarely happens in many companies. To be a leader of a leader means you must be humble. Because each one thinks he's a leader. So you see this in politics all the time. Everybody wants to become the occupant of the gaddi. But we are not into the talking of political leadership, we're talking of corporate leadership. And I think it's very important to understand that the jump in the skill level required to become a leader and becoming a leader of leaders is a huge jump. And Ratan Tata was very good at that. There are many things I can go on and on. When you worked with a man 17 years, but these were two qualities. He was a very humble person. He was never in the mode of मैं टाटा हूँ, मैं family का हूँ, मैं यहाँ का मालिक हूँ. It was always, and that is a very
But Gopal
good
sir,
quality.
just like he is a pioneering businessman, right? He was also a great leader. Like he hired you and some of others. And he was also very, from a philanthropic perspective, like even now opening up so many cancer hospitals in large, or what he did during COVID, I mean for the society in general. Do you consider that one is being humble and taking along team, these are the two qualities which served him? Or is there any more, which, you know, the learnings which, or the qualities which you picked up? Say some people may say some other quality, but आपके लिए और क्या quality resonate
Ratan
हुआ?
Tata followed, now the words are mine.
Yes,
He has
it's
never
your-
told me this himself. But he followed the principles of Zarathustra and Vedanta.
Can you sir elaborate on that? Yeah.
So what did Zarathustra say? He said, Huma Hukta Harsta, which means good words, good thoughts, good deeds.
Good words, good thoughts and good deeds. Okay.
Right? There's nothing, I mean, हर धर्म में ये बोलते हैं. But you go to any Tata office, you'll find that Zarathustra's एक लोगो होता है, Huma Hukta Harsta. Good words, good thoughts, good deeds. रात को चैन से सो, दोबारा आके repeat. And I say he followed the principles of Vedanta. I just told you the 4 principles.
Yes.
That's what he did. Become self-aware. मेरे शत्रु मेरे अंदर हैं, बाहर नहीं है. Protect the resources. हमारे पास इंसान लोग काम करते हैं. इनकी भी families हैं.
Like what the entire Tata did in either in Jamshedpur or even everywhere they went. I think that is itself is the testimony.
And then serve others before serving yourself. एक दिन I remember in one of our young managers meeting, somebody said, "Sir, India's richest man में आपका नाम कभी आता नहीं है. हम लोगों को इस पे अफसोस है."
अच्छा, तो उन्होंने रतन टाटा सर को बोला.
रतन टाटा को पूछा.
Okay.
I was sitting with him.
हाँ.
कि हम ABC XYZ का नाम सुनते हैं, लेकिन आपका नाम कभी आता ही नहीं उसमें. और हमको लगता है कि आप इंडिया के कैपिटल बिगेस्ट कंपनी हो. ही से ये बहुत भगवान की शुक्र है कि मेरा नाम उसमें आता नहीं है. मेरा नाम कहीं उसमें आ जाता तो मेरी क्या औकात है कि उसमें मेरा नाम आ जाए. जो कमाई हमने आपसे लिया है वो कमाई हम आपको वापस देंगे. समाज से लिया मैंने कमाई. मैंने ट्रक बेचा तो ट्रक ऑपरेटर ने लिया. मैंने साबुन बेचा तो साबुन की कस्टमर लिया. तो उनकी जो जायदाद है वही घूम के वापस जाना चाहिए. सो वी आर स्ट्रक्चर्ड from the time of Jamshedji that all 66% of our profit goes back to society. तो मुझे मेरा नाम क्या है उसमें कोई अंतर नहीं है. अच्छा है. Serve others before you serve yourself. And of course the last point about compassion. There are too many examples including animal hospitals and so on.
Yeah.
So it is the important thing to remember that his predecessors did the same thing. See, today we are talking of Ratan Tata because we don't know the predecessors.
Yeah, actually, I will be honest. When I read the entire book, Jamshedji Tata, then I read about like 150 years back also the same principles were there.
Exactly.
Sir, Dorabji
This is
Tata
what I
also
mean
did
by
the
saying,
same.
जो आपकी सभ्यता है, वहाँ पे आपके पैर होने चाहिए. Your feet must be locked in your roots. नहीं तो आपके सर को आप उठा नहीं सकते.
Yeah.
उड़ जाएंगे. तो using your past culture and principles and continuing them and improving them so that your successors can do it better is what it's all about. And Ratan Tata was a very good example of that.
And आपके favorite moments उनके साथ कुछ time like you shared couple of examples उनसे लोगों ने क्या पूछा? One or two examples.
There are many, you know, when you go every day to office and
yeah, every day कुछ ना कुछ तो होएगा ही.
कुछ ना कुछ तो होता ही रहता है. But just to mention a couple of very small, insignificant things, but they matter a lot to me. When I wrote my first book, जिसकी आपने भी चर्चा की,
Bonsai Manager. That was your first book.
That was my first book.
वो तो मैंने first management book पढ़ा था तो it was first for me as well.
It was also my first book. तो जब पेंगुइन अप्रोच मी एंड सेड यू नो आपके पास मसाला अच्छा है आप किताब लिखो. मैंने कहा या मैं लेखक नहीं हूँ.
Is it?
Yeah, I was never a writer. And so they said no, we'll help you and all that. So I sat down. 2-3 साल लगे उसमें. मैंने लिखा. फिर उन्होंने उसकी एडिटिंग वगैरह करके they said can we get a foreword for this from some important person. So I said I'll ask Ratan Tata. But मुझे my ghost inside was telling me Ratan Tata इतना बड़ा आदमी है, फर्स्ट टाइम राइटर को क्यों सपोर्ट करे. उसका नाम जो है.
But वो तो आपका, so he was your boss, right?
Fine, but you don't do everything. You know, it depends on how you feel about it. So one day we were in some conference, वो आके मेरे पास बैठे तो मैंने कहा बॉस मैंने ऐसे ऐसे I have written. He said provided I agree with what's written in the book, I'll be happy to write a foreword.
Yeah, of course. It needs to be agreed.
So he took the manuscript, he read it, and then he wrote the foreword for the book. Now he took a bet on a first-time author. I might be his colleague, but I can write a terrible book. You know, that's entirely.
He would not have written forward for that.
But he was kind enough to write, and then after that, my writing career just took off. Not because he wrote the foreword, but I'm saying it's an act of kindness to say that if he said I don't write forewords, or he could have said
I'm busy.
I only write for people who have already got some books in the market, they would have been perfectly acceptable. So the second is not directly related to Ratan Tata, but up to Tata, I would say. I was getting back home. I'm telling you stories that nobody else will tell you, because these are not in the public domain.
Yeah, these are like your personal moments, right?
So I was in service at that time, and so my driver had the Tata Epaulets, and he was driving my car. And
with everything.
all the paraphernalia. And मैं गाड़ी में बैठ के अपना मोबाइल पे कुछ कर रहा था. ये कोई 10 साल पहले की बात है. तो the हवलदार stopped my car, and my driver went and he said, some dispute, red light jump किया. And my driver came back a bit agitated and said, देखो साहब ये हमको चालान कर रहे हैं, बोल रहे हैं कि मैं I never. So the हवलदार said, देखिए मैं वहाँ पे ड्यूटी पे था, आपने रेड लाइट क्रॉस किया है, तो मुझे 400 रुपया का कुछ चालान करना पड़ेगा. So in those days it was not digital. You had to pay the money or something. Otherwise गाड़ी को आके आप वहाँ से ले जाओ. So I said, देखिए आपने जांच के लिए, निरीक्षण के लिए वहाँ खड़े थे और ये गाड़ी चला रहे थे, मैं कुछ और काम में व्यस्त था. अगर आप कहते हैं कि ये किया, वो कहता है नहीं किया, तो मैं आपकी ही बात मान जाता हूँ, मैं आपका फाइन दे देता हूँ. He said, आप टाटा में काम करते हैं क्या? I said, हाँ, लेकिन उसका इससे क्या ताल्लुक है? He said, आप टाटा में काम करते हैं तो हम आपसे फाइन नहीं लेंगे 400 रुपये.
ऐसा क्यों? ये तो it is unique.
It is very unusual. So I said, हवलदार जी, मेरे ड्राइवर ने क्रॉस किया, आपका काम है उसको फाइन करना, आपने फाइन किया, टाटा से क्या मतलब है? He said, मैं आपको एक छोटी सी कहानी बताऊँ, मेरी ट्रैफिक इज हेल्ड अप.
मतलब आपके पीछे सारी गाड़ियाँ खड़ी हैं.
Right here in Badwar Park. I said, what happened? He said, साहब 20 साल पहले की बात है, मैं फल्टन रोड पुलिस स्टेशन में काम करता हूँ. हम लोगों को हर साल मौसम जब खराब होता है, मानसून आ जाते हैं, रेनकोट मिलते थे. वो सरकारी कोई प्रोसेस है. एक साल 20 साल पहले हमको आया नहीं, कुछ डिले हो गया और बारिश खूब लगी.
हाँ एग्जैक्टली, बॉम्बे में तो यू कैन नॉट.
तो आपके टाटा वाले एक बंदे आया था कि आप लोग इतने मायूस क्यों? हमने कहा कि यार हमको रेनकोट नहीं आया. ही क्वाइटली वेंट बैक एंड ही केम बैक विथ 3000 रुपीज़ और समथिंग एंड ही सेड आप लोग खरीद लो एक एक छतरी. वी सेड आपको क्या हुआ? हम मानसून में भींगे हैं कि नहीं भींगे? ही सेड आप भी इंसान हो ना. So he took 3000 rupees of Tata money, must have persuaded his bosses because there's no voucher, there's nothing, the process in a big company. And he came and gave it to us within about 3-4 hours and said, buy yourself an umbrella each. मैं उस वक्त से सोच रहा था कि ये कौन है, उस बंदे का नाम भी मुझे मालूम नहीं है, लेकिन टाटा में काम करता था. तो मुझे लगा कि मेरी भी कोई उसके ऊपर
कंपैशन है.
And आज मैं चुकाना चाहता हूँ.
Absolutely.
He didn't charge me 400 rupees.
See, there are so many numerous stories. So I'm married in a family who grew up in Jamshedpur. तो वहाँ पे भी numerous stories हैं on from so many years on Tata, an entire compassion, and which is great. कि Ratan Tata also carried it along because sometimes in the pressure, right, profits का pressure है, sales का pressure है, someone can change the course, but he did not. I think that was the point which you mentioned. I stayed on to those principles.
That is very important. Very important. It's great to have good principles, but to be consistent with your principles is tough. Even in an individual personal life. In your, forget about companies.
Yeah.
Even in an individual. इस बार झूठ बोल लूँ तो थोड़ा, इस बार घूस दे दूँ तो मेरा ये हो जाता है.
Yeah.
But it's very tough. And I can't say everybody is blameless. But if you try to be as blameless as possible, that's a virtue.
Great. So, what are the key lessons apart from what you mentioned? Is there anything else which young people should know from either his humbleness, from his value systems, from principles, from Ratan Tata? What would be your one or two key messages on that?
देखिए, यंग पीपल को मैं इतना ही कहना चाहता हूँ कि ज़िंदगी में ये जो पीस हमने लिखा है किताब
Yes.
में, कोई असूल होने चाहिए,
Principles.
कोई आपका नियत होना चाहिए, व्हाट इज़ योर ऑब्जेक्टिव. हर एक को तो नौकरी करना है, कुछ पैसे कमाने हैं, पेट भरना है, इसके बाद क्या करना है आप. सो हैव सम फिलॉसफी, लेट इट नॉट कम व्हेन यू आर 21, आई डोंट एक्सपेक्ट इट,
Yeah.
बट एज यू आर वर्किंग योर वे अप, think of why you're doing this and what you want.
Why you have been arrived on this planet? And I think it's the reflection time. Like, what's a legacy you want to leave behind?
Exactly. Have and then perseverance. कि जो भी काम करेगा, दिक्कतें आएगी, उसको ओवरकम करके आपको परसिवियर करना पड़ेगा. कभी फेलियर आता है तो फेलियर से सीखना पड़ेगा. So all those things that you've written in the book, the P's,
Yes.
are very important. Profit. लोग कहते हैं कि जितना मैं MBA स्टूडेंट से बात करता हूँ कभी, तो मैं उनको एक सवाल पूछता हूँ कि भाई आपकी कंपनी में जितनी ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट हो वो अच्छा है. हाँ, बेहतर है, so long as it is earned with without any breaking the law and all that. I said, is too much profit possible? They said, ये कैसे हो सकता है? Too much profit? ठीक है, मान गया. अब मैं बताता हूँ, आप सांस लेते हैं रोज, आपको लंग्स में ऑक्सीजन की ज़रूरत है. ऑक्सीजन कहाँ से आता है? हवा से आता है.
हवा से आता है.
हवा में कितना परसेंटेज है ऑक्सीजन? आंसर 20%. ऐसा आपको मैं प्योर 100% ऑक्सीजन दे दूँ,
अब ले ही नहीं पाओगे.
खत्म हो जाओगे. इट इज़ पॉसिबल टू गेट टू मच ऑफ द गुड थिंग.
Yeah.
चावल और दाल खाना अच्छा है आपकी सेहत के लिए. चावल और दाल ही खिलाता रहूं तो आपकी तबीयत ठीक.
Yeah, that's what I.
So too much profit can also be bad.
Too much profit.
Then people think profit के भी एक हद होना चाहिए. वो हद हम नहीं लगाएंगे ना, कोई और लगाएगा.
Sir, now I want to ask a fun question with you. Supposingly you were with Ratan Tata sir on a standalone island, तो आप लोग दोनों क्या चीज पे डिस्कस कर रहे होते? There is nothing else for you to do. कौन से बिजनेस पे बात कर रहे होते? Yes, so many businesses.
I don't know what we would discuss, but very likely we would discuss the beauty of nature.
Okay, being there, you will be actually both being in present.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you don't want to discuss sales of trucks or steel or whatever. And you just enjoy the beauty of where you are. Enjoy the present.
That's a fabulous answer, sir. So we'll move towards now the third section, where what could be, I'll ask you a couple of questions on what would be your advice to upcoming leaders. So the first one for you would be, sir, you have worked in, आपने टाटा में भी बहुत काम किया है, यूनिलीवर में भी काम किया है, and different management styles होते हैं. You must have observed across various people. So if they, for the, according to you, जो top leaders थे in some of those organizations, 2 or 3 management principles or leadership qualities which got stuck on with you, is there anything which you can share with us? Tata में ये how?
See, we spent the first many years of our career trying to acquire more knowledge.
Yes.
Become better as an accountant or a IT person.
Or as a management person, anything.
That's important, and you must do that. But what really matters, but that's the question you asked,
That's the question.
is relationships. Enterprise and business is a living machine. एक तरीके से मशीन लगता है कि यहाँ से रॉ मटेरियल डालो, उसकी ये हो जाती है परिवर्तन और वहाँ से प्रोडक्ट आता है.
Yes.
और कोई हिसाब किताब रखता है और देखते हैं मुनाफा मिला कि नहीं मिला है. एक तरह से देखो तो मशीन है, दूसरी तरफ से देखो तो इसमें लाइफ है.
Because it's all people there.
इट्स ऑल पीपल. आपके सप्लायर से आपका रिलेशनशिप क्या है, आपके फाइनेंस के जो स्टाफ हैं उनसे क्या रिलेशनशिप है, क्योंकि जिस पुर्जे पे वो हर एक इंसान काम कर रहा है उसको जो ज्ञान है वो कभी आपको नहीं मिलेगा, एक्सेप्ट थ्रू हिज और हर वर्क, बिकॉज दे नो दैट सो वेल, रोज करते हैं. सो इफ यू ट्रीट योर होल enterprise as a living machine, then it is not so much the machine parts but the life in the machine parts that you must be, and that's relationship.
Yes.
And if I have to summarize without giving too long an answer, what is all this relationship? It comes to 3 words which are beautiful words: इंसानियत, इनायत और इबादत. इंसानियत इज फेयरनेस. जहां तक हो सके
बी फेयर.
यू आर नॉट परफेक्ट, सो यूल हैव अ फ्यू अनफेयर डिसीजंस, बट हो सके तो इंसानियत से काम करो.
एंड समटाइम्स उस टाइम भी पता नहीं चलता ना, फेयर अनफेयर,
बाद में पता लगता है कि शायद मुझे ऐसा नहीं करना है. इनायत इज बीइंग काइंड, कंपैशनेट. कि किसी की प्रॉब्लम है, आपको छोटा लगता है कि प्रॉब्लम, मेरे घर में बच्चा ठीक है, टेल योर मदर इन लॉ टू लुक आफ्टर इज नॉट एन आंसर. शी जस्ट वांट्स टू बी हर्ड. मेरा बच्चा इज नॉट वेल. एंड इबादत इज रिस्पेक्ट. आई मे बी मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, यू मे बी सुपरवाइजर, बट ऑलवेज ट्रीट पीपल विद रिस्पेक्ट. सो फॉर मी द 3I फॉर्मूला, इंसानियत एंड इबादत, इट्स द एसेंस ऑफ रिलेशनशिप्स. एंड मैंने देखा है कि बहुत साल बाद हर नेता तो पहुंचता नहीं, आई मीन ऑल गो इन ड्यू कोर्स. लोग किसको याद रखते हैं? जो सबसे इंटेलिजेंट था उसको उतना याद नहीं रखते हैं. जो सबसे कॉम्पिटेंट था उसको शायद याद नहीं रखते हैं, और याद रखते हैं तो भी इन पासिंग. बट जिसका जो इनायत से, इंसानियत से, इबादत से लोगों के साथ व्यवहार किया है, उसकी याद बहुत रहती है. छोटे मोटे इंसिडेंट्स. अब मैं जो इंसिडेंट्स कह रहा हूँ, या दूसरे लोग भी, जो रतन टाटा, ही हिमसेल्फ में भी सरप्राइज कि ऐसा हुआ था क्या.
उस टाइम उनको नहीं पता चला होगा, बट इट हैज रिलेटेड विद,
बट उसकी याद रहती है. अब कोरस की डिसीजन में क्या उन्होंने किया, वो जो अक्ल की तेजी थी, वो अलग बात. यू नो, दोस आर केस स्टडीज, बट दीज थिंग्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
Absolutely, and these are the things which will stay with everyone. मतलब it can be with a person who is of any age. ये चीजें remember करते हैं.
मैं कहता हूँ ना कि ये मशीन जो है एंटरप्राइज की, इसमें ल्यूब्रिकेशन की ज़रूरत है. जैसे आप गाड़ी चलाते हैं तो जरा कैस्ट्रॉल के ल्यूब्रिकेशन चलाना चाहिए. और द ल्यूब्रिकेशन इन द मशीन इज लव एंड कंपैशन. उसी से चलता है कि even today sometimes I get a message from somebody who worked with me 40 years ago कि उस दिन आपने छुट्टी दिया था मुझे, या आपने मेरी बच्ची की बात पूछी. अब मुझे याद नहीं है कि मैंने कुछ पूछा था. हो सकता है कि मैंने पूछा. तो मेरी बच्ची अभी 35 years की एज हो गई है.
Yeah, I can relate to it. Even I also believe in this principle. And कभी वो कोई ऐसे याद करके बोलते हैं, then it feels nice also at that time कि हाँ कुछ अच्छा कर रहे हो तो it is good for the person. Yeah. आपको इतने साल के बाद भी people are remembering, you must have had very good principles जो आपने follow किए ना सर.
I don't know, मैंने किया जो करना था वो किया. अब कई चीज़ें अच्छी निकली, कुछ चीज़ें ज़रूर अच्छी नहीं निकली. आई एम श्योर इसकी जो दोहराने वाले दूसरे हैं, हम तो नहीं हैं. बट इफ ऑन द बैलेंस पीपल से ये बंदा ठीक ही था, इसके साथ काम करने में मज़ा आया, कुछ सीखा मैंने, इट्स ओके, इट्स गुड. रादर दैन ये बड़ा कॉम्पिटेंट था बट hell of an SOB, I don't want to work with him again, you know. I don't want to be that.
Exactly. I think that's where you are very humble, and that's also is played a big role, right? आपके relationships अच्छे बनते हैं when you are also humble.
I don't know if we were always humble. We also change. ये I don't know if you worked in the tea business, but आप green tea, leaf tea एक तरफ डालते हैं, आपके हस्बैंड आपको बताएंगे.
नहीं, absolutely, I've seen the बगान में पूरा प्रोसेस देखा है टी फैक्ट्री में.
उस कोने में ब्लैक टी निकल आता है. उसके अंदर में जो मॉइस्चर निकलता है, उसकी टर्न कर्ल वगैरह होते हैं, इसमें द टी इटसेल्फ चेंजेस. हम वो नहीं है जो हम 60 साल पहले थे. None of us can be or should be.
We are evolving.
We are all evolving. But the direction of evolution must be such that you are becoming a better human being. If somebody says, yeah, I used to know him when he was 25, he was a very arrogant chap. ये भी मुमकिन है. ये ज़रूर मुमकिन है कि आज 55 और 65 एज में जो इनायत और इबादत से करता है वो एरोगेंट था. बचपन में बचपना होना चाहिए, इसमें कोई गलती नहीं.
And you have, I think it's true, it's like with age, with experience, evolving, but evolving to become a better person.
Exactly.
I think जो आपने important point ये बोला ना, evolution positive होना चाहिए, not the other way around. That is true. And in both the organization, I think these are the qualities of the great leader. Like you're working, but also playing equal important relationships as a whole.
I think of many Hindustan leaders. They were all no-nonsense leaders, but
Absolutely.
compassionate.
Yeah.
Now, is it possible to be no-nonsense and compassionate? It is possible. कि भाई ये काम करना है, इसके करने के क्या साधन है, बोलो तुम क्या करोगे, what will you take responsibility
Completely
for?
accountable थे रहना.
Accountable,
Absolutely.
no nonsense. आपने किया नहीं तो आपका इंक्रीमेंट कम है, ज़्यादा है, फलाना फलाना etc. But something that requires my compassion, my mother-in-law is not well, my father is not well, and then can you accommodate that? Because they are all human beings.
Absolutely. And that's what even in my experience, right, 15 years working there, I realized people who have stayed long in my memory as like great human beings are people who had followed the combination of both.
Correct.
कि दोनों चीज़ है भाई, काम भी अच्छा होना चाहिए because that's why we are, being hired for, but at the same time being compassionate.
So I regard all you, since this is a podcast you're doing for younger people, you can learn from things around you. See how a parent raises a child. All of us are parents.
Yes.
Or have been parents at some stage. You must give your child love, but you must also give your child discipline.
Yeah, absolutely.
So डांटने का वक्त आता है तो डांटो, प्यार का टाइम आता है तो प्यार. कभी डांट ज़्यादा हो जाए तो प्यार ज़्यादा दे दो, adjust कर लो. But every parent does it. And if you don't, the consequences come after 25 years when the child grows up.
Sir, Abhi, if I just say from your perspective, like you shared some do's. Do's is focus on networking or relationships and focus on learning. I think must don'ts, like अगर आप ऐसी advice दें, especially, and I think that's a question to you, whether does it differ जो first time managers बने, like junior managers, or this advice कि ये don't.
The only don't I have is don't stop learning from your mistakes. Mistakes तो आप करोगे. आप जितनी भी पॉडकास्ट सुन लो निधि की,
मिस्टेक तो होएगा ही होएगा.
मिस्टेक तो होगा ही.
Yeah.
You can't learn to teach the child to walk without it stumbling and falling. You can't ride a cycle without falling down. तो मिस्टेक करोगे. मिस्टेक से क्या सीखा तुमने? अच्छा, if you grow up thinking कि मिस्टेक करना ही नहीं है, then you will not walk.
Then you will not take risk.
You will not
I think
take
that's
any risk.
important जो आपने बोला ना, बच्चा वॉक ही कैसे करेगा आगे गिरेगा नहीं तो.
अच्छा, आप उससे नहीं सीखोगे कि मैंने जैसे किया वही ठीक है, तब भी गलत है. So if there's one don't I have, it is don't stop learning from your mistake. There comes a time as you rise, if you've risen well and you've done well in your career, whatever that definition of well may be, when you think, I know everything. That's one of the weaknesses of human ego. आपकी गलती नहीं है, ये इंसानियत है. This is the world goes like that. उस टाइम में मैं जब गलती करता हूँ मुझे मानना चाहिए. I'll give you an example. We had a company called Tata Finance. आपको तो मालूम ही होगा.
Yeah, absolutely, and I also.
Scam हो गया.
Yeah.
And the first person who got up, I mean, once we stumbled onto it, first there was shock. कि भाई ये हो सकता है.
इतना बड़ा fraud, हाँ.
Ratan Tata got up and said, "We got a fraud. I'll admit it. गलती हमारी है. किसी के पैसे नहीं जाएंगे."
Yeah, that is such an inspiring thing. Like, बिकॉज इवन व्हाट आई ऑल्सो हर्ड कि उनकी एज सच अगर रूल्स के पास से जाते तो उनकी लाइबिलिटी लिमिटेड होती.
एग्जैक्टली.
बट
यू आर एन अकाउंटेंट, यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस.
एब्सोल्युटली. बट दे वेंट अप कि किसी भी एक इंडिविजुअल, स्पेशली जो मनी थी, दिस वाज ऑल ऑफ इंडियन लाइक पीपल, राइट? So that
See, when I was in
Unilever,
Unilever, I was a director of exports. I had just joined the management committee. I'm talking of 35 years, 40 years ago. And because I was in exports, in those days we had something called FERA, which meant that if you found with $5 in your pocket, you could be put into jail. I suddenly found $1 million missing.
Okay.
My CFO rang me up and said, "Yeah, it's not adding up."
$1 million is missing from the accounting. The forex कहाँ गया?
So there were 2-3 things involved here. First is $1 million missing is a big amount of money.
Absolutely, 35
The second
years
is
back.
foreign exchange. So that's
Even more from a government perspective.
government point of view. And third is आप लोग क्या सो रहे थे क्या? आपको अभी प्रमोट किया है, आप डायरेक्टर हो गए हो इस कंपनी का, and ये हालत है आपकी डिपार्टमेंट में. When this happened, naturally मैं बहुत चंचल था. But then after thinking about it and talking to my mentor, I said it's better to look like a fool to a few people than to look like a crook to the whole world.
It's okay, गलती हो गई types.
So I went to my Ashok Ganguly was the chairman at that time. I said,
Okay.
yeah, I know I'm a director. I'm supposed to be
All.
सर्वज्ञानी. बट पता नहीं यार ये कहाँ चला है, मुझे हेल्प चाहिए. द मोमेंट आई सेड मुझे हेल्प चाहिए, फाइनेंस डायरेक्टर, ट्रेजरर, कंपनी सेक्रेटरी.
उस टाइम अगर आप अपना ईगो लेके आते ना तो वुड हैव बीन अ वेरी डिफरेंट स्टोरी.
वेरी डिफरेंट स्टोरी. जैसे इसने बताया नहीं, छुपा के दबा के रखा था इसने.
हाँ.
अब इसकी फोरेंसिक ऑडिट करो. द मोमेंट आई सेड आई नीड हेल्प, सी दैट्स व्हाट आई मीन बाय इंसानियत. If you come and tell me I need help, ऐसे यार इसको हेल्प चाहिए, पूछ रही है और हम हेल्प ना दें, ये कैसे हो सकता
है? और अगर पॉसिबल है तो करते ही हैं लोग. In general, people are good.
Always help. So yes, we never got the $1 million. And I even went to Ashok Ganguly and said if I'm prepared to resign because मेरे वॉच में ऐसा हो गया. But he said if you created the shit, you'll stay back and clear up the shit.
Yeah, don't resign. Better you be there.
And they promoted me. I'm not suggesting that you should lose $1 million and get a promotion. But all I'm saying is, asking for help is a human thing. That's what I mean by compassion.
Yeah, and the point which you mentioned is mistakes will happen. But mistakes के बाद admit करना and then seeking help,
Correct.
that is actually is the better way rather than उस पे
pushing it under the carpet and saying.
Then it is like you're going the wrong way. Then it will affect.
अभी बहुत लोग सोचते हैं, कह रहे यार ये गलती हो गया, इसको दबा के रखो, किसी को बताना नहीं. अभी इनमें एक टीम लगा दो. You see in the public domain when some complaint comes.
Yeah. Then there is a committee sitting about it.
But if somebody got up and said, "I'm sorry, there's been a mistake," I agree. It worked in Unilever. It may not work tomorrow. If I'm in politics, they may pull me down.
I think it's also about the ecosystem which was created for us there.
Quite right.
But I think the very mention, it's like different question, but more about managing, right? Managing relationships. When you say, see, sometimes there will be different point of views. आपके ऊपर में chairman थे, they had a different point of view. The team down below, they had a different point of view. And you are in a position where you have to bring them together, either for a common decision or common purpose. I mean, what is used to be your style? And I have read in newspaper, you have very different style of managing conversations and people कि आगे बढ़े. So that will be learning for many of us.
You know, Gautam Buddha, when he started his prachar, he defined something which I've forgotten what is the original word for it in Pali, but it means have a beginner's mindset.
Beginner's mindset, okay.
And I found that to be very helpful. Because we all come into a meeting with our mind made up. Because somebody has sent the papers. अच्छा, if I am a good manager, I have read all the papers. मैंने उस पर सर्कल किया है, मार्किंग किया है, खाते को खोल के I can ask 10 questions. A to demonstrate that मैंने सब अपना होमवर्क करके आया है. बी टू शो कि मेरा अकल तीव्र है, सारे मैंने निकाल लिया
सब कुछ पता कर लिया.
But if you can come to a meeting saying, हाँ, we have to take a decision on this matter. पेपर पढ़ लो, but come with a beginner's mindset. कि मुझे कुछ मालूम नहीं है और इस मीटिंग में मैं दूसरों से सीख के एक नतीजा निकालूंगा. You get a very different outcome.
Yeah.
Whereas what we normally do,
we want to show that we are all prepared. We want to show that.
So there's a boss man or deputy
Yeah.
boss man, and we think ultimately boss को तो decision लेना है. अच्छा, हम चाहते हैं कि बॉस को इतना इम्प्रेस हो जाए कि मैंने अपना काम किया है और everybody around the table is doing the same
Is
thing.
doing the same thing.
Then we wait for the
boss to take a decision.
boss to come with his word of wisdom. Boss has also read the papers. He has also made up his mind.
Yes.
मुझे यही करना है, ये प्रोडक्ट को लॉन्च करो ना करो. बट इफ़ यू केम ऑल ऑफ यू टू द मीटिंग सेइंग पेपर तो मैंने पढ़ लिया है, फैक्ट्स मुझे मालूम है, लेकिन मैं दूसरों के ओपिनियन में इंटरेस्टेड. व्हाई डज निधि थिंक दैट इज वर्थ स्पेंडिंग 1.5 hours interviewing some guy with all the equipment that you have brought? Why is she? We say, oh, she wants to help other people.
Yes. And that's,
यार ये लगता है कि कुछ इसमें मैं भी सहायता कर सकता हूँ तो करूँ. If you came in here saying this is going to go live on this, that, and मुझे going to get $1 million, I'll say, you know, why am I doing this?
why am I doing this? Absolutely. I think this is a very
This feeling that you can be mutually supportive and helpful, and रोज जाके आप बोलेंगे मुझे हेल्प चाहिए, then of course you are in problem anyway. Once in a while it happens, then you're overwhelmed. This is human.
Yeah, great. I think the point which you mentioned about sometimes first having a beginner mindset and be prepared to listen to others, that will help us in driving to a common conclusion. I think that's a great input. And if I ask you something which is on, for you, if you say, what is the best time or money which you have invested? आपके लिए वो कौन सी चीज होगी?
Best time or money you've invested, meaning?
For anything, with any, was it any book or something which you feel like that was the best investment you made, either in terms of time investment or money investments?
Because I'm probably advanced in years.
Yes.
I'm probably speaking with a certain hindsight.
Yes.
I would have got a different conversation if I was 45. ऊपर वाले ने बहुत मेरे ऊपर ख्याल किया है. थोड़े बहुत सेविंग्स हैं, बच्चों को पाल पोस के बड़ा किया, फैमिलीज को. मस्ट लिव कंफर्टेबली नाउ इन आवर ओल्ड एज. फेयर, वो तो हर इंसान की यही ख्वाहिश होती है और हर इंसान इसकी मेहनत करता है और कई लोग पाते भी हैं. बट एक जो सेकंड अमानत मुझे मिली है वो है अनुभव की.
एक्सपीरियंस, अनुभव, रेस, आई थिंक बहुत सारे.
एंड दैट इज लाइक इन अ साइलो, एक वीट साइलो जैसा है. मेरे सब अनुभव के जो एक्सपीरियंस हैं वो उसमें जाके बैठ जाते हैं. इट्स लाइक अ कचरा डब्बा, इट्स ऑल सिटिंग देयर इन माय हेड. तो वो किसी का काम नहीं है. तो मुझे जो सेटिस्फैक्शन मिला है कि उसको निकाल के 1-1 किलो आधा, इट्स लाइक वीट. उसको थोड़ा वीट निकालो, इसको ऐसा बनाओ, आटा बनाओ, इसका चपाती बनते हैं या नान बनते हैं या पराठे बनते हैं या क्रॉसवा बनता है या ब्रेड बनता है, ब्राउन ब्रेड बनता है उसी वीट से. तो उसी अनुभव से if I can share with other people, that's something they can learn. Which is why when you came and said what you're trying to do,
yes,
I warmed up to it, because this is what I'm also trying to do.
Absolutely. And this is where you're doing it with multiple ways, right? Either through your books,
books, your podcasts, or other things. But, and as you rightly said in the beginning, even if it touches the life of 100 people, or 50 people, or 5 people, अच्छा है. देखिए वो सुरेश नारायण है, ही इज द चेयरमैन मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर ऑफ नेस्ले. तो वो मेरे साथ यंग ट्रेनी था दिनों में. वो आजकल आके बोलता है मुझे कि 35 साल पहले आपने एक दिन ऐसा कहा था, उसका बहुत मेरे ऊपर असर पड़ा. मुझे अच्छा लगता है ना. मुझे याद नहीं है लेकिन अगर असर उस पे पड़ा तो द जीनियस इज नॉट इन मी बट इन हिम, कि उसने ये सबक सीखा उसमें से.
But you were the medium and actually
I
sir,
was only
mentorship.
the pipe through which
हाँ.
the message went. तो अच्छा ही है, खराब क्या है इसमें. अब वो मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, मेरे पास जिन्होंने काम किया है, संजीव मेहता वगैरह,
Yes.
दे ऑल बिकेम CEOs.
Yes.
मुझे उसमें गर्व है. ये नहीं कि मैंने उनको बनवा दिया, बट कुछ उनके ऊपर प्रभाव छोटा सा होगा, हल्का सा होगा.
Thank you so much for sharing. आपने बहुत एक important point बोला. And sir, now I would really like to share and ask with you. So this is a very interesting book. In fact, for everyone, मैंने ये जमशेदजी टाटा से book आई, मैंने 3 days में I was able to read it. It's simple read, but it's so profound stories. So मुझे मेरे लिए इसमें आपने जो purpose का story mention है about opening of cancer hospitals, the entire how the Tata Memorial Hospital's journey started to become the best cancer, वो मुझे बहुत रिलेट किया. आपका कौन सा फेवरेट कोट या आपकी स्टोरी कौन सी है? दिस इज अ very amazing book, sir. Thank you so much for
thank you for
this.
reading the book and for saying it is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, this is like saying you have 5 children, which is your most favorite child. ये मुमकिन नहीं है.
ये मुमकिन नहीं है.
किताब तो लिखी है हम लोगों ने प्यार के साथ.
या बिल्कुल प्यार के साथ. In fact इसमें हर एक, so the book says in all the P's, it's purpose, profits and perseverance, and everything has three stories. All are amazing stories actually. So any favorite quote or anything you want to share about this book?
No, I think this is the story of an organization which has institutionalized inayat, insaniyat and ibadat. For me, that was the real story. Why Tata is very memorable. मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि और कोई टाटा नहीं है सारी प्लैनेट पे, वो नहीं कह रहा हूँ. मुझे जिस इंस्टीट्यूशन के साथ तजुर्बा है उसकी मैं चर्चा कर सकता हूँ. हो सकता है कि और गॉडरेज है, महिंद्रा है, दूसरे भी हैं, बट इट वॉज अ ग्रेट प्लेजर टू सी बिकॉज इट्स वेरी टफ. देयर आर मेनी फाउंडर्स, पैसे भी कमा लेते हैं, अच्छी तरह कमा लेते हैं, अच्छी तरह मीनिंग थ्रू गुड मेथड्स, नॉट बाय चोरी, बट टू मच मनी कैन ऑल्सो फिनिश ऑफ. टू कीप इट गोइंग फॉर 150 years इज अ फीट.
एब्सोल्युटली. इनफैक्ट जब ये नेम मैंने देखा ना तो वो मुझे लगा कि दिस इज स्टोरी अबाउट जमशेदजी टाटा, बट देन व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड रीडिंग इट, ओह इट इज अ स्टोरी ऑफ 150 years and how each of the generation has continued those learnings.
Exactly.
That is something very powerful about this
हो रहा
book.
था तो मुझे कुछ उलझन आ गया कि लोग सोचेंगे इसकी बायोग्राफी.
एक्चुअली कवर से ऐसा ही लगा था, बट जब स्टोरी अंदर पढ़ना शुरू किया कि जो सेम लर्निंग जमशेदजी टाटा ने की है, सर दोराबजी टाटा ने किया है, रतन टाटा ने किया है और JRD टाटा ने किया है, all of those have different stories but similar principles.
So you look at artists.
Yes.
You look at Lata Mangeshkar, you look at M.S. Subbulakshmi.
Yeah.
You look at Bala Saraswati in Bharatanatyam. Their great divinity, because this is without divinity you can't do it.
Absolutely.
It's not that they had a Surila voice, but they were able to keep consistency for 60, 70, 80 years.
Absolutely. And they worship even like before. So we all worship how Lata Mangeshkar used to be, or many of these. I think आपने वही बोला ना, continue किया because they had this belief. Yeah. And these are principles. I think that each of the P's which you mention, either it is about principles which organizations or people can have in their life, or it's about perseverance. I think stories of perseverance are there. So I would recommend everyone to read this. It's a very easy read. I personally enjoy, and this is actually one of the book which मैंने fastest complete किया in terms of management book, because it's such an interesting stories. It's filled with all great Tata stories. So thank you sir for writing it. Sir, अगर आपके लिए एक billboard होता, anything, any billboard can write anything, आप उसके ऊपर क्या लिखेंगे? What would be the one line you abide by, or anything which you would want to share on a large billboard anywhere in the country?
Create sustainable, humane, enlightened enterprise.
Wow. Create sustainable, humane, enlightened enterprise. It actually एक line है, but it sums up so many things.
Lots of things.
It is amazing. It is outstanding actually. It's about creation. Create something new. It's about creating a sustainable organization.
आप जिंदगी आके आपने बीता है, कुछ तो अंतर होना चाहिए, छोटा हो चाहे बड़ा हो, but if you can add value to or create sustainable, humane, enlightened enterprise, you move the needle a bit.
Move the needle. You create the mark in the society.
Okay.
Sir, any last words?
No last word. बहुत हो गया.
Great. So, sir, I have something for you. This is something I have created. A small token of love for you. It's capturing some of the parts of some photographs, some interesting things which was available. So I have created and my sincere thanks for.
Thank you very much. आपने ये बहुत तकलीफ किया.
नहीं, it was all from my love, and through the creation of this, I actually read lot of stories.
चलिए मैं बच्चों को दिखाऊंगा, my grandchildren.
I hope you like it.
Yeah.
And I want to also, after this thoughtful conversation, pay my tribute to Sir Ratan Tata here. I mean, he was a gem of a person, and we will all remember him for centuries for making a difference in the society, difference in economy. And to Sir, my sincere thanks to you for all your time. I know you have shortage of time, you're doing multiple things, but giving me this opportunity and these couple of hours has been very precious to me. And I have learned so much, and I believe everyone who will be listening, watching, they will take away something inspiration from this conversation, sir.